This is the story of how East met West, of how gold, ideas, and silk would one day walk the same trail. What we now call the Silk Road first had to be discovered, not by armies or merchants, but by one man on a dangerous mission. His name was Zhang Qian, and long before he was a hero, he was a gamble, a diplomatic roll of the dice by a young emperor. But every great journey starts with a reason. So let's go back to 138 BCE to the halls of the Chinese Han Dynasty, where the idea of a trade route was born out of desperation. It began with the 18-year-old Emperor Wu of Han. He envisioned his realm so vast and powerful that even the Xiongnu horsemen of the north would kneel before it. The Xiongnu, nomads of the steppe and precursors to the Mongols, had become China's nightmare. They raided northern borders and caused havoc. These nomadic tribes were the reason why the Chinese started building the Great Wall centuries before. Now the Han Emperor's generals held them back, but never for long. Then the emperor learned about the Yue Shi. Once proud rivals of the Xiongnu, they were driven far west. Perhaps they were still hungry for revenge. If they could be found and convinced, they could strike together from both sides and crush the Xiongnu for good. But the west, where the Yue Shi resided, was unknown, full of shifting tribes, towering mountains, and endless desert. For this mission, the emperor needed a man that was loyal, clever, resilient, and unshakably brave. That man was Zhang Qian. A military officer with a sharp mind and good reputation, he was respected at court and probably had a taste for adventure. In 138 BCE, Emperor Wu summoned him privately. The order was dangerous, possibly fatal. Find the Yue Shi, win them over, whatever it takes. He was joined by an escort of 100 men and a guide named Gan Fu, a trusted Xiongnu who had been captured in war. He presumably knew local dialects, smuggler routes, and how to avoid attention. But soon the surroundings changed. As they rolled past fields and familiar faces, they ran into lands where the maps ended and guesses began. They pressed on, past the dry Hexi corridor, into the Gobi Desert, hoping to reach the lands beyond. They had to endure heat by day, frost by night, and sandstorms that erased tracks within minutes. However, this wasteland had eyes. Either by pure chance or because someone gave them away, their fate was about to change. An ambush came from riders as fast as arrows, the Xiongnu. When the dust settled, the Han envoy was bound and silent. His mission to find the Yue Shi was lost. The Xiongnu didn't know his name, but they knew what he was, Han, and that was enough to drag him north in captivity. He was held in the Xiongnu heartlands for 10 long years. There was no rescue, no word from home. As time passed, he earned the trust of his captors. He listened to traders, to warriors, to whispers of roots, kingdoms, cities beyond the horizon. He learned their customs, hunted, traded, even married, and had a son, perhaps out of strategy or out of sheer human need. And then, when he saw the chance to escape, he took his family and Gan Fu and ran away. You'd think he would yearn for the road back to Han territory, but that path meant returning in disgrace without fulfilling his mission. Instead, Zhang Qian kept going west and crossed into lands no Han envoy had ever seen. First, he found the Dawan people, nestled in the Ferghana Valley. They lived in fortified cities, cultivated wheat and grapes for making wine. What stunned him most were the horses, tall, muscled, and claimed to be sweating blood. He instantly thought the emperor must have them for his armies. The Dawan weren't isolated. Zhang Qian learned they traded west, to Anxi, more commonly known as Parthia, and even further. He left Dawan on good terms and journeyed southwest to the Yue Shi, near present-day Uzbekistan. That's where his emperor had sent him to secure an alliance. The Yue Shi lifestyle was similar to that of their Xiongnu rivals. They were semi-nomadic and valued their herds. Zhang Qian offered them an alliance against the Xiongnu so that they can reclaim their homeland. To his despair, they refused. Still, they welcomed him among them, and he spent there a year learning about their culture and economy. He became the first Chinese Han to see Arabian one-humped dromedary camels during his stay. Then he traveled south to Dacia, commonly known as Bactria. What he walked into was the remnants of the Greco-Bactrian realm, a kingdom resulting from Alexander the Great's conquests. The Bactrians were settled and had similar customs to the people of Ferghana Valley. He noted they were good at commerce, but afraid of battle. Here he also learned about the existence of India and Mesopotamia, faraway realms out of his reach. Everywhere he went, he learned of a world far more connected than the Han had guessed. With this newly gained knowledge, he finally decided to return home and report his findings to the emperor. He cautiously took a southern route, hoping to avoid falling in enemy hands again. But the steppe wasn't done messing with him yet. Near the borderlands, the Xiongnu showed up again, because of course they did. And just like that, he was back in captivity. This time he managed to escape after only 2 years, taking advantage of infighting among his captors. Zhang Qian managed to return to his homeland in 125 BCE, with his trusted guide Gan Fu still by his side. They were the lone survivors of the group who set out to find the Yue Shi years before. You can imagine few people could even recognize them by now. And of course the emperor would be angry with him for allowing himself to be captured and ultimately failing his mission. Yet his adventure yielded something even better than an alliance. You could say he failed successfully. The court expected a humbled man. Instead, they got a walking encyclopedia, a living, breathing map that spoke several dialects and had survived 2 captures. Zhang Qian reported dozens of kingdoms, Dawan with its heavenly horses, Dazia with Greek philosophers and gold coins, and Xi with Persian fabrics and their bureaucracy. He spoke of the Yue Shi, who had rebuilt their lives peacefully far west, and the powerful trade routes that ran through them. He described roads teeming with jade, wool, spices, glass, and gold, traded from empire to empire. He handed the emperor details about climate, crops, currencies, customs, everything a strategist could want. The court was stunned. Until then, the West had been rumor. Now it had names, paths, and purpose. Emperor Wu understood immediately. The Xiongnu weren't just a nuisance. They sat on the doorway to regional power. Zhang Qian had failed to bring back allies, but he brought something far greater, a reason to reach beyond China. His stories set off sparks in the emperor's mind, but one detail burned brightest. The horses, the blood-sweating stallions of Dawan were powerful, agile, and capable of long campaigns. To Emperor Wu, they were war machines and the key to defeating the Xiongnu. Within a decade of Zhang Qian's return, the emperor sent countless envoys to Dawan to trade for the horses. It didn't go well. At one point, the Han envoys brought a golden horse to trade for living horses. In Dawan eyes, this only fueled the rumor that Han was a very rich empire, so their envoys were asked to pay even more exorbitant prices. Taking offense, the Han envoys smashed their own golden horse. This prompted their hosts to murder them and confiscate all goods. You see, the Dawan didn't fear the Han at all, because they thought they were too far away. That was a gross miscalculation. After an initial Han campaign failed, a second expedition was launched in 102 BCE. Dawan resisted, but in the end, the Han got their horses. This event is known in history as the War of the Heavenly Horses. The emperor's victory sent a clear message throughout the Central Asian kingdoms. Han cannot be ignored, and they better start trading, or else. And so trade routes were initiated, forts were built, and diplomats sent. The Silk Road had begun, even if no one called it that yet. Through this new network, the Han learned of a great power in the far west, a place they called Da Qin, the Roman Empire. They hadn't met the Romans yet, but they knew of their rich, urban, and powerful existence. Zhang Qian became a high-ranking government official. He passed away in 114 BCE, a few years after returning from his final adventure. Today, he is remembered for what he made possible. He enabled Emperor Wu to connect empires and build bridges no one else could see. As for the Xiongnu, they were eventually defeated by the Han emperors about 200 years later. Yet the world would tremble again for centuries to come, as countless tribes of nomads waited for their turn. Long after Zhang Qian, the network he revealed became more than trade. It became transmission. Caravans brought goods, but they also carried stories, gods, and knowledge. From India came Buddhism. Monks carried sutras eastward, founding temples in oases, sparking pilgrimages that would last centuries. From Bactria came Greek philosophy. From Mesopotamia, algebra; from Persia, architecture and wine; from China, paper, gunpowder, and the compass. Ideas didn't respect borders. They wandered and transformed. In China, you could now buy Parthian glass and quote the Buddha. Even music traveled. Instruments from India and Persia shaped the sounds of Chinese courts. On this ever-changing network, empires traded what they valued and absorbed what they didn't know they needed. But the Silk Road also spread some things that were never needed, like the plague and other diseases. That, however, is a tale for another time. With the good and the bad, the Silk Road opened the door to globalization. Do you agree? Tell us in the comments below. You can also stitch us into your feed by hitting subscribe, and don't forget to check out our other episodes. The Reel of Time never stops rolling. Thanks for watching.